Peace everybody, I am Native Soul. Welcome to my channel if you are new, and I just want to say so much is happening right now. Yes, in my individual life, but just look at the world. Look at what is happening right now. I have done months of research on things that have been happening, specifically on like the psychological aspect of everything since 2020, as well as health and how we are being impacted as a human species. And for those who don't know, I am a naturalist and I am a humanist. What does this mean? Well, in short, a naturalist is someone who stands on the side of nature when it comes down to anything, and a humanist is someone who is for the humanization of humanity. So really affirming people's humanity and cherishing that and preserving that, as opposed to transhumanism, which is when technology and human beings are merged to create a whole different species, basically. And I've really had a difficult, challenging time opening up and sharing my true, authentic, raw thoughts with the public for multiple reasons. And one of those just being that I have been censored a few times on YouTube. Like, my video has been taken down. The first one that I made about it was taken down on a whole different channel that I had. And then I had a couple of videos on here that got in some trouble I had to remove. And I've been flagged multiple times on Instagram. So I know the federal government is watching me, and I just want to say this. Now that is out of the way, I will get on with just kind of like explaining to you why I think this is such a crazy time, and also a special time and a turning point in humanity and just for the planet in general. So I am Choctaw Native American, and my ancestors were natural healers. So they lived through me, okay? I connect very deeply with nature, with the trees. Like, I communicate with trees, I can communicate with animals, I feel messages through the wind and the sun and the moon, like all of that, you know. I believe that spirit, the source of all things, the divine, or God if you want to call it that, is everywhere and permeates every space and cannot be boxed in, cannot be cut off. And I just wanted to speak about that first and foremost, because when you look at what is happening, yes, politically, but just in general, even in the big pharmaceutical industries, they tend to particularly pinpoint like attacking indigenous practices and attacking natural ways of life. And by the way, if you hear like some boiling, it's just because like I'm making some herbal tea right now, because it's cold in here and I drink tea every day because it's good for you. Yay! So yeah, so the big industries that are run by certain people, and I do that, and I'll get into that of why I did that, but they really do their best to try to destroy what is natural. And they have demonized indigenous practices, including herbalism and the natural OG, you know, original ways of being, because, well, there's multiple becauses, and I'm not going to go into that in this episode. If you're curious, you can chat with me, but for now I'm just going to keep it simple right now. But this is a war that is going on, and it has been happening ever since colonizers stepped foot on this beautiful sacred land. There has been a war. There's been a war and they have used so many different tools, whether that be through conversion from like how the indigenous people worshipped and connected with the divine spirit. There's been a war on that. There's been a war on the medicines, the natural medicines that we have used to survive, right? And so they've brought dis-ease, they've brought disorder into the land, and I cannot stand for it. I don't stand for it. And I'm not gonna just be somebody who's just sitting on the sidelines just saying, hey, oh well, has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with me, and it has everything to do with you, because whether you believe this or not, we are one. And just think about that. Not even on a spiritual level, you can see how physically we are connected. For instance, if I show up to my job just pissed off, mad at the world, my energy, which like electromagnetically, we have an electromagnetic field that our heart and our brains, our minds emit. And it's feet around us, right? That then affects the energy of the room. That affects the person next to you. And then a lot of people are highly sensitive and empaths like myself. So if you walk into a room and you feel that energy and something's off and you feel somebody is angry, you start to internalize that, even if it's subconscious, right? And then you go and walk out of work, and then you start frowning and you're passing all that energy to somebody else. And then they go home and they pass it to their family. And it just keeps on happening. And so when we look at how connected we are, we can see the good in this too. Because if I, as myself, am just making a positive change in the way that I am doing my personal life, like if I'm getting up and I'm meditating and I'm doing my breath work, I'm journaling to process my emotions, I'm not keeping things trapped inside of my body and then creating all these types of ailments, then I'm able to be a healthy person, and I'm going to impact someone else that I see, that I come across, even if I'm just giving them a smile, because I truly feel that I am full of joy at that moment. So there's positives in this too. And the series that I'm gonna be starting, I don't even know if I want to call it a series, because really it's just me speaking my truth. And it's just me standing up and saying to the evil forces that are out there that enough is enough. And that good always comes and shines the light on the darkness. And that is the business that I am all about. And whether you decide to believe what I say or not, that's up to you. But I know, as far as like my life path, I have to stand up now and I have to speak. So I don't take it personally if you want to call me whatever, or if you want to just label me and other people conspiracy theorists, which I will talk about that definition in a different episode. I don't care. But I look at the bigger picture and I see that there is hope for truth to be able to be spoken to the very ends of the earth, not only just from me, but from you and from other people who feel this shift that is happening universally, and why it's important to start taking care of ourselves. It's really a time to return back to nature, because if we don't do it now, I don't know when we're going to do it. We might have to go through a whole cycle of generations and generations and generations of people falling down and realizing that, oh shoot, we need to go back to nature. But I believe that there's a wave right now of people who are passionate about healing, who are passionate about health, who are passionate about thriving, like just seeing the planet thrive, and not just have people be run on survival emotions. Because when we are in survival mode, which means we are in fight or flight mode, constantly in fear, our bodies start to deteriorate, and so do our minds. And then we are not able to make sound decisions for those around us. And I mean, frankly, for ourselves, but also those around us. And then that affects the whole energetic field of the earth. Like, we are even connected to the great Mother Earth. She has a resonance, right? It's called the Schumann resonance. And her frequency can be heard and felt throughout the whole planet. And when human beings' vibration is upped, like it's raised, then that affects the frequency, the Schumann resonance of Mother Earth. And we just keep on going up, 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 up together, right? And that's when healing and truth come out. And that's when things flourish. But if you've paid attention, not just to the news, but I'm saying like just to the shift that is happening, back in 2020, this is what they tried to do. They tried to lower people's frequencies and put them into a state of shock based on trauma. So things like racial divide and the police brutality that has always been happening, but them airing it and formulating a story in such a way, they really created a shock on the whole planet. And then all these other things, the protests, the riots, that was traumatic for everybody. And that's why I believe the events that are happening right now are actually connected to what happened back in 2020. And I don't know if you know this, but I study psychology. I have my degree in sociology, and I also study neuroscience in my free time, and I have a political science degree as well. So I want you to see this and know this, that there is such thing as trauma-based brainwashing. When somebody goes through a traumatic experience, they get shocked. Like, it's literally like, whoa. And what happens is that any information that comes in during that time of a shock trauma, that information goes past your logical brain, your analytical brain, and goes straight to the subconscious mind, where things can be able to program your very mind to think a certain way. Then after that trauma, you start to think differently, and you don't notice it. That's the thing. That's where the brainwashing comes in. You don't notice it, and you're just running on high stress emotions. So from that, you will do anything you can to get out of that trauma. And that includes looking for something outside of yourself in order to fix the problem. When you look for a savior or a medicine or something that is outside of yourself, you are not living in your power. You are literally giving yourself away to a system, to other things that are external to you. Because I believe that the divine God, the spirit, the source of all things, dwells inside of every living being. Whether that divinity is suppressed or not, it is still there. So realize that you are the savior of today. One of my favorite books is the Bible. I grew up reading the Bible. My parents are ministers. Although my ideas have expanded, I still see the Bible as such a beautiful symbolic thing, because in the New Testament, you can clearly see that Jesus, the figure, is representing God consciousness in a human body, an eternal God in a human body, source of all things in a human body. And that is you, and that is I. And there are books now and scientific proof to prove that we can heal ourselves. But if you don't believe that can happen, and you continually run to the thing that they are trying to feed you, even if it's not the best thing like possible for you to do, you will continually give your power away. But this is a time for people all over the world to acknowledge their power and step into their power and rise up as a unified people and start making positive changes. But it only starts on an individual level. It starts with you meditating. It starts with you praying, if that's your vibe. It starts with you really taking care of yourself and eating. And I'm literally preaching to myself too, okay? So this is not me looking down on anybody or trying to be better than anybody. This is me just speaking. A spirit is speaking through me. This is for me too. I'm just a messenger. I always have been a messenger. And with all games aside, it's really time for us to pay attention to what is going on. And in future episodes on this channel, I am going to dig deep into the details of why it's so important to have your eyes peeled, all three of them, and see the plan that they're trying to play out and why it will not work. Because people are awakening from like all over the world. We are becoming conscious, and that is exactly why they're doing this at this particular time. So please stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe to get notifications on the future videos where I go into the facts, the science of why we need to protect the younger generation, the children specifically, because they're coming for the children and they're trying to get rid of the old generation. Please subscribe to this channel and leave a comment if anything resonated with you, anything that lifted you up, and I am here for you. We are here together, we are one, and just sending peace and love to you and blessings. See you soon.